Hello, everyone. Thank you for being with us here on the first day of classes. We thought it would be really great to welcome students, staff, and faculty back with a webinar reintroducing ourselves or introducing ourselves if you're already familiar. Sustainable Carolina is housed within the UNC Institute for the Environment, and we are one of UNC's research centers and institutes. We strive to work across operations, research, and academics to make our campus more efficient and pave the way for future advancements. We are off and running for the fall semester with two big events coming up. The first one is our Sustainability Social, hosted annually. That is Wednesday, September 10th from 9 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. And then, very excitingly, we have our third annual Champion Sustainability Football Game, which will be on Saturday, September 13th. We are partnering with UNC Transportation and Parking for this year's game, which, you guessed it, is a sustainable transportation theme. So I'm excited to be moderating this conversation today, and I will go ahead and let our speakers introduce themselves. And if you have questions during the webinar, feel free to put it in the chat and we will answer those questions at the end. All right, let's start with Mike. Mike, can you introduce yourself to everyone?
Absolutely happy to. And I'll start off by saying thank you to Abigail for putting this together. We're excited to have these conversations throughout the year, and this is a great start on the first day of class. As the resident old person, I will acknowledge that I've had many of these first days of class. My very first one was in 1986 when I came as a freshman to Carolina. And actually, we're in Carolina Square, and my dorm is just right out that window that way. So it's always fun for me to celebrate these big days. My role now is I'm the University's Chief Sustainability Officer, and I also direct the Institute for the Environment. So I get to work with all these great folks across a whole bunch of different sets of goals. The Institute for the Environment is a research institute with a really broad mission that includes within it Sustainable Carolina, which is our sustainability group, which is working hard to, as Abigail said, have the university function as well as it can and do it in a way that's efficient and sustainable. So really excited to talk with you today and excited to be here with these other folks.
Hi, my name is Melanie Elliott, and I am the Sustainability Analyst in Sustainable Carolina. So I report to Mike, and I work with Abigail, and we have one other person on our team. But my primary responsibilities include the greenhouse gas inventory for campus and other similar data-heavy tasks. And the idea is to keep track of the university's progress towards our sustainability goals, including net zero greenhouse gas emissions by 2040. But I get to do a lot of other fun things. One of my favorite things is engaging with the Renewable Energy Special Projects Committee. I'm the advisor for that group now. And if you didn't know, $4 every semester is a fee that's added on to your tuition, and that fee from each student goes into a funding pool for that group to decide on how to spend it on renewable energy projects, energy efficiency projects, and energy education for campus. And I get to do all kinds of other fun work, like event planning and things like that. But I'm just excited to talk about sustainable transportation and some of the other things we have going on today.
Great. Thanks, Melanie. And lastly, Landon.
Hi, everyone. My name is Landon Coley. I'm the Transportation Planner here at UNC Chapel Hill. I work in the Transportation and Parking Department. I'm also the Commuter Alternative Program Manager. So you might have seen me at events like orientation this year, graduate orientation. And then we also host transit talks on campus, which is a monthly event where we just kind of have a Q&A session, myself and my TDM coordinator, with the student body and faculty and staff to kind of help them understand their transportation options. I also manage the bike infrastructure on campus and do things like planning transit, like bus routes and things like that with point to point, as well as working with Chapel Hill Transit. And then I also do help out the parking department a little bit. and I'm very happy to be here. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Landon, for being here today, despite your technical difficulties with your video. So we're excited to have you all here. And I think we can go ahead and get into it. Mike, we'll start with you. Since this is the first welcome back webinar, and we have some new faces around Carolina that might be unfamiliar with how sustainability works on campus, can you tell us about the history of the sustainability group and how we formed as Sustainable Carolina 5 years ago?
Absolutely. Carolina has a great history around sustainability. I think it's fair that we could start in sort of modern efforts in 2007 when we committed to our first climate action plan and our goals around neutrality with carbon emissions. So through the years, we've had several different approaches as far as initiatives and offices throughout campus. But about 5 years ago, we reorganized as Sustainable Carolina. And so that brought all of the folks who were dedicated to sustainability specifically into one group and organized us in a way that ended up being a node within the Institute for the Environment. And so that was a second decision, that we would look at sustainability as obviously a pan-campus effort, but as something that we could really move forward with direct connections to the university's other core pillars. So research, education, and service. Time flies when you're having fun. Abigail alluded to Melanie joining early. Melanie actually began in the current effort prior. She was doing stuff around the emissions inventory before I was officially involved. But we're into 5+ years of Sustainable Carolina and we faced lots of continuing challenges, as everyone does, but we've had great successes, and we've really had a fun time building sustainability to be thought about the way it is across the university. So that, I think, is where we are with a little bit of historic and current, whereas Melanie alluded to, Langley Smith is the only member of our team who's not with us today. We have lots of other great support from folks who help us out part-time, and also lots and lots of amazing partnerships. And transportation and parking is among the top. There are lots of units across campus doing really substantive, important sustainability work, and we take it as part of our role to help celebrate their successes and help them in any way we can also.
Yes, and Melanie did start really early on here. Melanie, what interested you in the role? Because you came from an interesting background. You studied astrophysics in college. How did you end up in this space?
Yeah, so when I was in my very late 20s, I decided that I wanted to go back to school to get my undergraduate degree. And I thought I wanted to be an astrophysicist. And I got to be for a little bit. And that was really great and really fun. And I learned a lot, and I got to work with a lot of really intelligent people. And I made a lot of friends. But I also felt like I wanted to be able to use some of the skills that I had developed over those years for some bigger issues on our planet and not just looking at other planets. So my final year at UNC as an undergrad, I decided to switch from astrophysics to a renewable energy track in the same program. And so in that final year, I also started looking for real world experience, and I found a work study position. And that position was under the greenhouse gas specialist. And that role was part of sustainability, but at the time lived in UNC Energy Services, which is the energy utility on campus. They distribute steam, electricity, and chilled water all around campus. And so as that intern, I got to look at how energy moves around campus, which is really interesting. And it's really complex. And, because the university is really like a small city. And I also got to look at the carbon footprint, basically, of the university from our energy consumption, as well as other categories like our commuting and our air travel, our food purchases and paper purchases. And so I got to kind of dig into those details. And in my final semester as an undergraduate, my supervisor left the university, and by the time I was graduating, the position was open, and so I was offered to take that position. And at the same time, as Mike was saying, this transition was happening from energy services into the Institute for the Environment. So Mike offered me a job right after graduation, and I got to stay on and continue the work because it was really fun and interesting, like I said, and complex and confusing. I like the challenge of it. And yeah, and I've been here ever since.
Great. Yeah, and those relationships with energy services and energy management, our team still interacts with those groups to this day. So it's really valuable to have, you who have seen both sides of that on the team. And so that brings me to my next question. Mike, you work across a lot of different, units at the university level, and I'm interested to hear what you're excited about happening this year on campus and what, you're kind of a part of right now as in terms of conversations about energy efficiency and that sort of thing.
Absolutely. So yeah, it's a lot of fun. And because we've been doing it for a little while now, I feel like we no longer know everybody we want to work with, because there are always amazing opportunities out there that you maybe haven't quite found. We found a lot of them. And so we're doing lots of exciting things across all different sectors of sustainability. If people haven't been to Battle Grove yet, it's a really amazing site where what used to be a pipe in kind of a muddy field was daylit and turned into a stream, and using a really complex technique called regenerative stormwater management, turned into a water treatment structure. But it's so much more than that. It's amazing habitat for birds. It's the new home for the Carolina Beekeeping Club's bees, and they are succeeding beyond anyone's expectations. And I should take a second to acknowledge that one of my best jobs is being the advisor to the Beekeeping Club. And so those are the kinds of things. We've worked a lot at Battle Grove. I had a grad student who did research there. We've been connected there, thinking about water and water quality and the way that the university's stormwater connects to the systems around us. But it's really all coming together. We were really instrumental in connecting with Audubon to have it designated as a bird-friendly habitat. And so those sorts of things, when all the pieces, all the relationships come together to be something bigger than they might have been otherwise, are really exciting. And I do feel like we have opportunities like that going forward. I do think transportation is one of them. We have so many wonderful assets on campus. We have so many shared assets with different units across campus. I already mentioned transportation and parking, having a great relationship with them. I was lucky to engage in their planning for their 5-year plan and see just the complexity of all the things they do. And the challenge is that they have to do everything they do with the revenue they generate from their activities. So that, to me, is another reminder about sustainability, is it's got to be sustainable in the sense of you have to have a way to pay for it. And so that has been a wonderful partnership through events, through different efforts. When we think about sustainability and transportation, we often think of Melanie's figures that she puts out with emissions. And so the university's emissions come from things like commuting and travel for research or for study abroad. And then looking at our conventional sources, like our fixed combustion sources that we use to generate all of our own steam and a lot of our own, or some of our own, electricity. So there are areas where I think we are poised for exciting breakthroughs. I think transportation is definitely one of them. Not coincidental, that's what we're talking about. If you think about Chapel Hill Transit and the amazing shared asset that it is with the community, and how fortunate I think all the partners are that we have one another to invest in this fare-free transportation system across the area that brings so much value to Chapel Hill, to Carborough, to the university, and really to all the area around as it connects with other transit systems. That is a giant area of emphasis going forward. as the university thinks about accommodating 5,000 more students pretty soon, and then thinks about understanding our physical plan and understanding our physical structures and where else we might be as we continue to grow. The nice thing is we don't have to worry too much about how are we going to get people there, because we have a lot of those things in place. And it's not just buses, it's not just P2P, but it's our amazing movable, walkable campus that is really poised to continue to accommodate lots of folks. So I think I'm really excited about transportation. We'll talk in a second about the upcoming game. That's a really fun way to celebrate with our partners and get excited about new things going forward. I think we're always, because it's a constant effort, we're always poised for something exciting and new on the energy front. We are armed with amazing data constantly from Melanie's work that tells us exactly how we work vis-a-vis powering ourselves and purchasing some power, but also what does that mean for our emissions, and how can we continue to do what we've done, which is demonstrate significant progress towards our goal of being carbon neutral by 2040, while we're also growing by leaps and bounds physically as a structure as on campus, but also by number of people. So it's remarkable. There's always more to do. We acknowledge that, but I think that's a constant area of opportunity just because there's so much going on. And just one last thing, relationships. We have outstanding relationships with the folks who are working on the ground. None of us, almost by any action we take, could reduce emissions, but we can help folks who can relatively straightforwardly, with the turn of an LED light bulb, make a big difference and help with the planning as we move forward in that area.
Yes, and it's been so exciting to see, both of you, Melanie and Mike, working with all of these different groups to really make things happen on campus. And Melanie, this summer, I feel like you've really been connecting the dots with all of these groups that get information out to new students and new faculty and new staff. And I really want to hear kind of how your summer's been informing those partnerships, because I feel like every time I talk to you, there's something new happening. So, yeah.
Yeah, definitely we've spent the last 5 years building lots of great resources. And we've just been spending the summer trying to find new ways to get all of those resources to Tar Heels earlier in their journey here. And so one thing that we're really excited about is a feature in the Hello Heels app. So that's a product of Student Affairs, and we were able to meet with them this summer and figure out how to set up sustainability resources in the Hello Heels app. So if that's something that you don't have downloaded yet, I highly recommend it. It's got all of these resources that anyone could need as soon as they step on campus. So it's, maps and things like that, emergency services, everything's all right there, but also, how to recycle and where those recycling bins are, things like that, you don't want to have to search for in some other platform. So definitely look for those sustainability resources in the Hello Heels app later this semester. And Abigail just shared the link to that in the chat. And one other thing that I'm really excited about, so before I came to UNC, I had a career as a chef. And so I'm excited to be working with the Healthy Heels newsletter that is geared towards students to give them resources about all things health and wellness. So that's, mental health resources and all kinds of different things. And so each week they share a new recipe. And we're partnering with the author of the newsletter to include sustainability tips to pair with those recipes. So if you're, interested in how to be more sustainable with your food and food waste and saving energy while cooking, look for those tips in that newsletter. And then finally, I'll just share that we are working with some of our partners, including Landon in Transportation and Parking, to develop a new sustainability orientation program. So that will be open to all Tar Heels, students, faculty, and staff, as a way to sort of like crash course into sustainability on campus. So we are still working on that development. So again, later this semester, you'll be able to see all of these resources coming out.
Yes, so those are some great ways to get involved. And Mike, you mentioned that you had a student that did research out at Battle Grove, and I was wondering, are there other opportunities for students to get involved in sustainability related or environmental research related research at Carolina, and maybe some resources for how to get connected on that?
Absolutely. I'll start off by saying that we're lucky at Carolina to have environment spread throughout so many different units. We have it in geography and environment. We have environmental science and engineering in the School of Public Health. We have my department, Earth, Marine, and Environmental Sciences. We have E3P, which is a really big, amazing major for a lot of undergraduates. And many of those individual departments have resources of their own. There's some collective resources. Something called Eco Studio, which is a way to match students with experiences either in units on campus or in businesses, both around and fairly well distributed, which is something we've gotten better at with distance kind of efforts. So there are lots and lots of resources out there. Within our units, we've made a big effort to take advantage of the amazing resource that creative, hardworking, super smart Carolina undergraduates are. And so starting within our Sustainable Carolina group, we have specific internship slots that we gear every year with a little bit of rotation in topic, but we have a handful of topics that we tend to come back to. I'll just talk about one in particular, and those you can find if you go to sustainable.unc.edu, where we have all this stuff listed. But one I'll talk a little bit about, just following that theme, is we had Ella Kopp was our Creek intern. And so that was following on the research I mentioned, was actually a grad student in my research group who did work at Battle Grove and at the Outdoor Education Center, places where water was leaving campus and going to surrounding communities, but also going through structures that had been designed to treat it. And so understanding how those structures worked was Martina's question of my grad student, and she did a great job, but it also begged the question, what do we know about these streams on more of a day-to-day kind of basis? And that's really what Ella tackled. Langley Smith, that we mentioned, our fourth partner, does a great job leading our internal internship partner, and Langley and Ella did an amazing job monitoring stream water quality at points that leave campus that go out to other places in surrounding communities. And I know, because I'm on the inside, that Abigail is finishing up an article, I think perhaps that I'm the only thing delaying, that really shines a light on that exciting venture of the idea. Langley's committing to really making it happen, and Ella's doing great work to get a whole year worth of data that tells a lot about the way that these streams work. So that's a really, to me, a remarkable example of being able to be directly involved in understanding how campus works, but also doing work that is highly translatable. And I know this because I just wrote a letter for Ella to get a similar job to the one that she did when she was an intern. So fingers crossed that it really turns into something that she loves. Having had a lot of interns in lots of different settings, including my research lab, sometimes you don't like what you do, but you know what's really valuable is understanding that this thing you thought you loved was not actually what you thought you loved. So I think that brings great value as well. The Institute for the Environment has several internship programs as well. If you're particularly interested in environmental law, we have a brand new program that's a tribute to Brian Bryce, who's an amazing environmental attorney who graduated from Carolina, a double Tar Heel. And that internship program funds folks to have summer experiences to learn more about really what environmental law is like. And we had a great first year this year. And I think everybody really loved it, from Brian Bryce to the two amazing folks we had in the internship roles. We have another internship program called the Pavel Molchanov Scholars Program. And the Molchanov Scholars Program recruits in December. So look at the Institute for the Environment's website for an announcement there. That's 10 internships placed in North Carolina, Virginia, and South Carolina to really get a great understanding of what environmental careers might look like. And that for us is part of a really important effort to close a gap in accessibility where funded summer internships can be a little bit of a luxury. If you have to make money in the summer to be able to make things work with your school career, having a funded summer internship is required. And we love this program because through the generosity of one of our board members, Pavel Molchanov, who, to his credit, is a Duke grad and saw the vision to stand up this amazing program at Carolina, we have the ability to do a great job giving folks all kinds of different opportunities. And this time of year is super exciting because people are finishing up those internships, and because of LinkedIn, something that's probably been awesome for a long time and maybe I only figured out, but you can see and celebrate with these students all the experiences they've had. And if you don't know yet, there's nothing better than an internship for all the reasons I already talked about. You might find what you love, and you might realize, I don't actually love that. I'll say I am a marine scientist by definition, and a lot of people came and worked in my lab and thought or said, this is not what I want to do at all, which I understand. It's not for everyone, but there's nothing better than seeing firsthand what the actual job you think you want to do is prior to committing to having your first job.
Definitely. And it was so much fun to hear Ella's experience and talk to Langley about, how Ella grew throughout the course of the internship and finding all the water quality measurements. So that was a really fun story to tell, and I'm excited for it to come out. And then on the flip side of research, we have courses that students can take at Carolina. Melanie, I was wondering if you could quickly kind of tell us about some of the capstone courses that you've worked with throughout your time here.
Yeah, so first I'll throw a pitch for the Sustainable Triangle Field Site, which is a great opportunity if you want to get an entire sustainability minor in one semester. You can knock that out through the field site. And Mike used to lead the field site as sort of an interim before we were able to get Tony Sebastian to lead the field site. So that's a really fun way to get involved. And we've worked with those capstones while they were sort of starting some of the work, if I remember correctly, of, water quality in our creeks and some heat mapping projects on campus that have broadened out to some of these internships that Mike was talking about. And we're also excited to welcome back Dr. Leda Van Doren to campus. She was on a sabbatical for a while. I took one of her classes in undergrad, and now I am grateful to get to work with her on some capstones. And we've done all sorts of different projects. One that I'm particularly proud of is energy and water efficiency projects on campus. So we have a funding source available for energy and water efficiency projects. And we decided to gather a capstone class to look at energy and water consumption in our buildings and find some outliers. And they actually got to go into these buildings behind the scenes, up in the attics and the basements to see, what is really going on in these buildings and how can we possibly fund some of these projects. And one of those projects actually led to our first sustainability football game, because we got to help fund LEDs in some athletic facilities, including Carmichael Arena and the Keenan Football Stadium. And so that was the theme of our first annual sustainability football game.
And what a great segue into our next topic of conversation, which of course is the Champion Sustainability Football Game that will be hosted here at Carolina on September 13th. Mike, can you tell us about, your planning process with athletics for that?
Absolutely. So there's a history of sustainability and athletics and sports in general at Carolina. And there have been in the past, basketball and football games that were focused on sustainability. My history started with a conversation with Tar Heel Sports Properties, and they are the folks who do all of the business side of the radio and television for all of Carolina sports. And they're super fun to work with and a remarkable bunch. And we had a great meeting, I guess it was maybe 4 years ago, talking about what we could do and how we might be able to make it work and how we would sort of constrain and shape the way that we thought about the new world of the game. And a lot of it was shaped by a great corporate sponsorship that we had from Hanes Brands, a great North Carolina company that at that time held the brand Champion, which remains very popular and something that's really prevalent on campus. And Hanes Brands is also a big supplier of different apparel, and they do a lot of the embellishment, putting on the logos at the university. So this is a long-standing great relationship. And Hanes Brands was at a time in their sustainability history where making an investment in Carolina, along with their big business relationship in sustainability, made a lot of sense. And so we were at the same place. We each had a new plan. We each were designing metrics and launching new efforts to achieve our new targets. And our first sustainability game was celebrating all of those things and celebrating this connection. As you know, if you've been on campus very long, there are a lot of buildings with Hanes' name on it, and that's the Hanes family, a great North Carolina family. And so that was a wonderful kickoff, was having this opportunity to look at the generosity of a corporation that the university had a great relationship in lots of areas in the sustainability space, and their generosity standing up something that Melanie already alluded to, which is the Champion Sustainability Fund. So with the resources they provided, we set up this fund whose principal goal was to invest in efficiencies on campus, so things like LED lights, that will return on our investments. And some amount of those savings go back into the fund. And so it's called a green revolving fund. And that's because some of the savings comes back into the fund as it makes these investments in efficiencies. And the exciting thing was our first project was in Carmichael Arena, which is obviously, if you've been here, you know, the home of the women's basketball team, who are so wonderful, historically the home of the men's basketball team. So just a really great historic part of the university. And athletics were amazing partners. It turned out they were at a time where they were redoing Carmichael, they were redoing the Dean Dome, and they were redoing Keenan Stadium with LED lights in a way that, from our perspective, was going to be a giant savings in energy and a big advance in reducing emissions. For them, it was unequivocally positive in terms of enhancing game day experience. So it was this really nice triple win where you have all these fans having a better experience because of the improved lighting, all the units saving money. Athletics has to obviously generate their own resources to do all the things they did. So it's nice to have a lower power bill, and it aligned perfectly with our continuing efforts to reduce emissions across campus. So the first one was a ton of fun. We all celebrated. It did in different ways. Videos on the Jumbotron. It was definitely a lot of fun. The second one, also very fun. We made some changes in the way that we did things. And I think all of it really was for the better. And that one was, the focal point was celebrating a new athletic sustainability plan. So updating the way that athletics thought about sustainability and really drawing attention to the things that were going on that were great and identifying things that could be done better. So those were the first two. This year we've already talked about is focused on transportation. We're really firming up a partnership also with the town of Chapel Hill and hoping that logistically that'll all work out for the game itself. But that brings in some of what I've already talked about with thinking about Chapel Hill Transit, thinking about all of the trails that exist throughout town and all of the walkable and movable areas throughout campus, and how that's really a way that we have these shared assets that we leverage together for success. And there's lots more to be done in those regards, and lots changing. As we know, the university, as I've already talked about, has tons more students coming in, changing its physical structures a bit, and having to have more places for students in every way for all of their experience. And the town of Chapel Hill is also trying to make some changes to become more dense, to allow more people to live here, and to provide ways for people to live here that's perhaps more affordable than currently now. So those are big challenges, and challenges that are exciting to take on together, and they feel like a great theme for our third sustainability game. So I think that covers it pretty much as a thematic thing. It's just a lot of fun for us because we often are preaching to the converted. Like the folks we talk to about sustainability know a lot about it. And so the conversations we have are either reassuring, or they have additional questions about what else, which is great. Those are important stakeholders. But also important are folks who maybe don't think about it all the time. And so when we do things like the halftime radio shows, I think it's a chance to talk to an audience that we really don't get a chance to have listen to us every day, and to do it in a context that feels familiar, whether it be athletics or the overall operation of the university.
Yes, and it's been so much fun over the years to see Melanie on the Jumbotron and hear you, Mike, on the halftime radio show. And I'm really looking forward to this year. And we're actually going to do a little bit of game day activation the Wednesday before the game at the Sustainability Social. Melanie, can you tell me about some of our partners that, plan to come to that, and how we are getting everyone excited for the big game?
Yeah, so as Abigail mentioned, the social is our annual event that kind of brings together all of our friends, our partners on campus. So you can, chat with a student organization, or one of our operational partners, or some other folks about how to get involved in sustainability. And we always give away free food and free swag. And this year, I just wanted to mention we'll have some exclusive game day memorabilia. But if you want to get a game day t-shirt, you'll have to come out to the game. But yeah, so we'll have, we've invited our game day partners. So Transportation and Parking will be there to talk about sustainable transportation around campus and the commuter alternative program. We've also invited Chapel Hill Transit to come out and talk about the buses and other things that they offer. And we've invited athletics to come out and really just hype everyone up about the game.
Great. We are looking forward to it. And Landon, Melanie talked about how you are going to be at the game day activation. Can you tell us about the role that transportation and parking plays in coordinating all the buses and shuttles with Chapel Hill Transit for game days?
Yeah, definitely. So it's going to be a big undertaking this new football season. In our department, transportation and parking, we're calling it the Belichick effect, where we're seeing every home game. It's going to be a sellout. It's going to be a massive. It's going to be a massive event, way bigger than anything we've experienced in past years. And now with Chapel Thrill happening on Polk Place as well, it's going to bring even more people to campus. So we've been really focused on what we can do to try to help the flow of traffic to and from the event. One of the things my department did this summer was hire a consultant to assist with us in our traffic analysis this summer of commencement in the spring, as well as the international soccer match we have with Mexico and Turkey. We kind of treated those as a test for what we can see in football season this year. And it's not going to be the same scale, but it can kind of help us make our decisions. So what we're going to do is we're going to implement a new traffic pattern on Manning Drive. Normally, Manning Drive is, of course, 2 lanes in, 2 lanes out. But what we're going to do for the 4 hours before the event is make it 3 lanes in. And then at halftime, we're going to flip that. And so leaving campus on Manning Drive, it will be 3 lanes going out. So what we saw and what we heard from our consultant is that, it's really going to increase the amount of people that can get off of campus in a timely manner because of how many people are going to be parking on campus. And then on the Chapel Hill Transit side of things, normally in the past, they've kind of handled Tar Heel Express, which is a bus shuttle from Southern Village and Friday Center to campus. They've kind of handled that themselves. But since this year is going to be a lot different, we did work with them. We brought them into the planning process for that, just to make sure that we are making sure that they are, they have access to campus, that they are getting people on these shuttles and getting them off of campus in a timely manner. And we're looking forward to it. It's going to be a massive event on September 1st and for every home game this year. But yeah, we're excited, and we think that the work that we've done this summer is going to make a huge difference.
Yes, for sure. And, as the transportation planner, you're thinking about more than just game day. You're thinking about, every day on campus. What does biking look like? What does bus riding look like? What does pedestrian friendliness look like? And in 2023, Transportation and Parking released its 5-year plan. And so I was wondering what excites you most about this plan and what strategies are you directly involved in there?
Yeah, Mike alluded to it earlier, just how much of a beast this 5-year plan is and how much detail and how much planning goes into it. I mean, because basically, as soon as the 5-year plan comes out, we're already planning for the next one. We're trying to get ahead of it and ahead of the development that's going to be taking place on campus in the coming years and things like that. And the main things that I've worked on as transportation planner are related to one, the North-South Bus Rapid Transit Project, which for those who don't know is it's going to be a dedicated bus lane that comes through the south side of campus and goes all the way up to North Campus through the town of Chapel Hill on MLK Drive and South Columbia Street. There's going to be massive new covered bus stops on campus. We're going to have 2 on Manning Drive, one on South Columbia Street in front of the Health Sciences Center, and then a couple up near Cameron Avenue and Franklin Street as well. And so with the 5-year plan, we're trying to make sure that with this implementation, that we are connecting that development to what we're doing in our own department, which is always promoting transit, promoting bike riding, and things like that. And so with these new bus stops, we're going to have dedicated bike lanes, protected bike lanes, which we don't have too many of on campus, so that we're really excited for that. And we're just trying to make sure that we are connecting people, in a multimodal fashion, biking off of campus to taking the bus and leaving the town and things like that. So that's the main thing that I've worked on with the 5-year plan. And then on top of that, we're also looking at ways that we can improve bicycle infrastructure on campus and to make sure that it's always safe and easy to bike around campus, as well as Chapel Hill and Carborough.
Yeah, and one of the goals for, all these strategies that you just mentioned is to, make it a more commuter-friendly campus. And there is a program that Transportation and Parking heads up for that, and that's the Commuter Alternative Program. Can you tell us like how to enroll, who can enroll, and what the benefits are for that program?
Yeah, absolutely. So in the past, the commuter alternative program was mainly for students, faculty, and staff that lived off of campus and that commuted to campus. We changed that this year so that now residential students are able to still sign up for the commuter alternative program, because the majority of them are taking transit or walking or biking anyway. So we wanted to make sure that they still receive those benefits from this program, and those benefits include emergency ride back with point to point, a local business discount card. We actually have 10 to 12 businesses that offer 5 to 10% discounts for CAP members. We also give out 20 free weeknight parking codes for on-campus to any CAP members, as well as 1 free on-campus parking pass per semester. And students have told me in the past that has been really useful because towards the end of the semester with finals and things like that, they might be bringing a large project to campus with them and they don't want to take transit and risk damaging it or something. So that 1 free on-campus parking pass can be used as a resource for that. And then, yeah, like I said, residential students can still join, but they will only have access to the park and ride permits once they move off of campus in the future.
Awesome. And then the P2P app I read became available last April. And how does this sort of make on-demand transportation easier for students to use?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the reason we switched to this new point-to-point app in this past year was because of the feedback we received from students in 2023 and in 2024 that had some trouble with the app. Sometimes there was bugs, sometimes it wasn't tracking things properly. So we really took their feedback and decided that we would develop a new app, which released in April of this year. And this new app is better than ever before. It's now easier to request these on-demand rides on campus. It also notifies students or faculty and staff, if their ADA accessibility pass to get access to the on-demand shuttles has, come out of date. And it's been great so far. We've received a lot of good feedback, especially from students at Beatty Hill that utilize it to get from the south of campus to north campus. Because those buses, they do run every 10 to 15 minutes, but sometimes you need to get to where you need to go quicker. So point to point has been a great resource for those folks. And yeah, it is just an app for students, faculty, or staff to use as an on-demand shuttle service. If you have accessibility needs, you can utilize that to get to where you need to go rather than having to walk or roll to a bus stop. And at night, we also have newly implemented the point-to-point safe ride program, which in the past, Chapel Hill Transit operated 3 on-demand bus routes that ran Thursday, Friday, and Saturday nights from 11 p.m. to 3 a.m. Point-to-point this year has actually absorbed that service. It's now going to be an on-demand shuttle that you can order kind of like an Uber or a Lyft to get to those bus stops from those old bus routes. And you can check our website if you want to see more about where those bus stops actually are. But we're really excited for that. We've had a lot of great feedback from students that said that this is going to be a lot easier for them than trying to wait for the bus late at night. And yeah, we're very happy with our new product.
Yes, that's very exciting. And then I thought we could end on a question that is probably a popular one. Can you give us an update on the bike share program here at Carolina?
Of course. So where we are at right now, of course, if there's students that have been here in the past, they might have used the old bike share, which were the Spin or Bird bikes on campus. That was a dockless bike share that we had from 2023 up until the spring of this year. We ended our relationship with them for a number of factors. But in thinking about the future, we do want to keep a bike share on campus. We've been working really hard this summer in our department to try to find a new vendor for this bike share, which we are aiming for a 2026 spring launch for the new bike share. It's going to be a little bit different than the past, and all of them are going to be improvements. So the main one is going to be that it's going to be a docked bike share rather than a dockless one. In the past, we did receive some complaints from departments and buildings on campus about people leaving the bikes outside of the bike racks. And that's not something that we could really enforce in the past. We just kind of had to deal with it and try to hope that the vendor could come around and, wrangle the bikes essentially. But now with the new system, with it being a docked bike share, it will be easier to kind of keep the sidewalks clear for people, that aren't just taking the bikes and for people that are walking and things like that. We're really taking it seriously, the accessibility aspect of this and still making it, friendly across campus for people that walk and roll. On top of that, we are also going to be focusing on trying to give students free bike rides with the bike share for their first 30 minutes. This is, of course, because students at the end of the day are the ones paying for this bike share. And so we want to make sure that we are giving back to them and giving them more access to a bike share than ever before. And in the past, we saw around, the average time of most bike rides was around 20 minutes. And so that's why we focused on trying to make that a little bit longer and stretching it to 30 minutes to give them free access to those bikes for that time. We're still in the planning process right now. We haven't selected a vendor yet, but all of these things, we're focused on providing in the spring. So more to come soon on that.
Great. And I'm really glad you're, keeping in mind what the experience is like and taking your time finding, the perfect vendor for that. And I'm really excited for the spring 2026 launch of it. So that wraps up all of our questions here on the webinar. If you are a student that's here for CLE credit, I'm going to put the QR code in the chat. And then if you have any questions, we have 10 minutes to answer them. It can be about anything related to what we talked about, or if there's something, we didn't talk about that you're interested in, we can try to answer that question for you. You can put them in the chat or the Q&A. But otherwise, thank you so much to Melanie and Mike and Landon for being here today. This was a great start to the school year, and I'm really excited for the fall semester. So we have one, I think, question in the chat. Let me read it quick. All right, we'll start with this one. We have two questions. The first one, and this might be a question for the Office of Waste Reduction and Recycling, but Melanie, or Mike, you might know something about it. Is there a plan for film plastic recycling in all buildings?
I can start us off, and if Mike has something extra to add. But yeah, so right now, plastic film can be recycled in a few select buildings. And to my knowledge, there isn't a current plan to expand upon that. Recycling standards change very regularly. And so it's often hard to kind of keep up with those changes. But the Office of Waste Reduction and Recycling is always trying to make sure that everything that can be recycled is getting recycled, and sometimes that doesn't include plastic film. So they are trying to keep the recycling services that they have, and I think expanding into something like all buildings would require a bigger market for the plastic film. So as far as I know, right now, there is not a plan to expand into other buildings, but again, we can direct you to our partners in OWRR.
Mike, did you have anything to add to that, or?
I do not. I had unmuted because I would be happy to take a crack at the other one.
Okay.
So
Oh,
go ahead, Abigail.
Go for it. I was going to summarize it, and then
I think you can if you'd like. Yes.
Okay, great. So, sometimes sustainability can be seen as a buzzword, and a fad. How do we make genuine progress, and contribute toward a more efficient way of life?
So it's a great question. And I think it's like the underpinnings of the question are definitely the case, that sustainability sometimes is just a word that people say on both sides of the issue. So for us, and I'll stick to us, there's part of the question that's about big corporations, and that'll be harder to answer because it would depend on exactly what a big corporation did and things like that. But I'll stick with the university, which is, as I think originally Melanie said, is a small city. So can we make genuine progress on sustainability in this small city that does have demonstrated impacts? And I think my answer is unequivocally yes. And the way that we do that is to be very clear about our goals and be very clear about the facts that underpin those goals and set metrics that we're going to use to gauge our future success and track those carefully. And that's where Melanie comes in, not only with emissions, but lots of other analyses of metrics around sustainability, and then present that progress in a crystal clear way in our annual sustainability reports that Abigail produces. So I think you have identified a big challenge, which is sustainability is a huge issue, and that the things we're trying to fix sometimes are very challenging. And if you're not careful, you can overstate the degree to which you are really part of the solution. And for us, we want to be very clear up front about where we want to go and how we get there, and share not only progress in the metrics, but what have the investments been to try and get that progress done. So are we perfect at it? Absolutely not. But do we try to live by those guiding principles that you must articulate your goals and you must have a plan to show your progress?